Good morning, Rebels, and welcome back to my life. So on my recent trip to Austin, I asked a lot of you what books you thought I should read on the plane flights, and more than one of you suggested Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Believe it or not, I've never read a Sanderson book before, which I'm told is basically blasphemy for a fantasy author, so sorry. So I read Mistborn, and how's the book? Well, it's superb. It's like really good. The story is excellent, the characters are rich and vibrant, and the world building is like beyond compare. You gotta talk about the magic systems when you talk about a Brandon Sanderson book, and the magic systems in Mistborn are awesome. It's crazy. It's very unique. I've never seen anything quite like it in fantasy. Sanderson is known for his magic systems. Like, before I ever heard about the plot or the description or the world or anything else, I heard, you gotta read Brandon Sanderson. His magic systems are crazy good. And it's easy to see why. His magic is like an actual science. Sanderson himself proposed a law that a reader will be more satisfied with the magic in your story the more they understand that magic. So you learn all of the rules of it, and then the book's ultimate conflict is resolved, and you just have this amazing, oh wow moment, which is just a really powerful experience as a reader. Well done to any author who can create that kind of experience for us. Now, I don't think that complex magic systems are necessary for every fantasy book in the world. I mean, Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones did very well by basically just going, it's magic, bitches! But a magic system like Sanderson's can be a very powerful addition to a story that's already well thought out and populated with excellent characters. It's kind of like Aliens in science fiction. There's plenty of good science fiction books that have no aliens in them, but if you already have a good story and a good universe constructed, Aliens can be like a really great enhancement to that. Now, in the middle of the first chapter of Mistborn, I was afraid I wasn't going to like it. I'm not a huge fan of fantasy's current trend towards like darkness, where everything is sort of evil and oppressive and everything sucks, like the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Great books, not for me. And the first chapter of Mistborn started out that way, and I just kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, oh god. But then we met one of the main characters, Kelsier, and Kelsier became the flaming torch in all of that darkness. He is one of my favorite fantasy protagonists in a long time, and every single scene with him is a joy to read. He's awesome! And when the other main character, Vin, shows up, we get to see Kelsier pull her through the process of realizing that the world isn't as dark and terrible and forbidding as she's always thought it was. And I saw this as a metaphor for the fantasy genre in general. Like, Sanderson himself is taking our hand and going, listen guys, I know things have gotten a bit dark and depressing, but look, we have wizards and inquisitors and nobility, and we can still have fun! But now, unfortunately, I gotta talk about the one thing in Mistborn that didn't totally blow my skirt up, and it's what I guess you'd call the tone of it. I read fantasy to be transported. I want to feel like I'm in another place on another time, somewhere very different from present time Earth. So the only thing I didn't like about Mistborn was that, for the most part, the characters talk like you and I would. They use phrases that come off as anachronistic. Their dialogue doesn't feel appropriate for what is kind of, if not actually, medieval fantasy. Like, they use the word okay, and they say the phrase a couple days, and just language that feels a little more contemporary than I personally like in my fantasy. And you can't even say this is something wrong with Mistborn. It's clearly a choice by the author, and it's clearly meant to make the book more relatable. I just personally prefer it when books are a little bit more like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, and people say well met instead of hi. But that being said, the book is killer, the ending is spectacular. I will be buying the rest of this trilogy and reading it as soon as I possibly can. I don't do starred ratings on my reviews anymore, but if I did, Mistborn would have a lot of them. So what do you think? Have you read Mistborn? Did you love it or hate it? Am I crazy? Am I right? And what was your favorite part of the book? Let me know in the comments, but please, tag your spoilers. As always, thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon supporters who make all of my YouTube videos possible. I will see you all tomorrow. Maybe. Bye! This is a thumbnail, Megan. This is a thumbnail.